Welcome back to Paleontology Bingo. Grab your bingo cards, everyone.
Imagine holding a living direwolf puppy in your hands. That sounds like fantasy, right? Well, it's now become reality, thanks to genetic engineering.
I'm not going to question what seems like AI-generated videos.
Yes, direwolves aren't just from Game of Thrones. These were very real, ancient predators, and scientists have successfully revived them.
They claim they have resurrected the direwolf, but then again, it's not really the same direwolf that existed like 13,000 years ago.
All that and more, these are extinct animals scientists brought back from the afterlife.
Okay, to be fair, this doesn't seem like it's AI generated. Actually, it probably is, given the monstrosity of the creature. I don't really know at this point. But then again, oh my god, yeah, this is definitely AI generated. Just look at how this guy, one dude's head is just phased into this creature. Bro, you have almost 8 million subscribers. You should have a higher production quality than this.
So, guess what? Scientists just brought back the direwolf. Yes, the actual creature. This is not something they're close to doing. They've actually done it.
Can you guys just read this freaking sentence? This is just completely insane already. I can't really call it a ridiculous statement though.
Colossal Biosciences, a Dallas-based biotech company, announced that they've successfully used ancient DNA to create 3 direwolf puppies. CEO Ben Lamb said, "Our team took DNA from a 13,000-year-old tooth and a 72,000-year-old skull and made healthy direwolf puppies."
Now they used a ridiculous statement. This is the correct one. We've taken a gray wolf genome, a gray wolf cell, which is already genetically 99.5% identical, and we edited those cells to contain a direwolf version of the DNA. So, lads, let's circle the makes a ridiculous statement tile.
He also added, "It was once said any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Well, today our team gets to unveil some of the magic they are working on." They were born from surrogate dogs and raised with bottle feedings, so they're friendly for now, but they're already starting to act more like true wolves. Thankfully, they live on a massive 2,000-acre preserve with cameras, drones, and guards keeping an eye on them.
Then again, wolves aren't very naturally aggressive to humans. Well, unless if they're large enough, which the direwolf is.
The Bucardo, or Pyrenean Ibex if you're feeling fancy, was a wild mountain goat that went extinct in 2000, when the last known female, named Celia, was found squished under a fallen tree in Spain. Brutal way to go, honestly, but science wasn't ready to let her go just yet.
Okay, that's fine. I'll leave that alone. This paleontology video, is this even a paleontology video? You know, we're talking about recent animals that went extinct, so technically it is.
2003, researchers went to Jurassic Park on the situation, and they took frozen skin samples from Celia, using them to create a clone. And it worked, sort of. A domestic goat was used as the surrogate mom, and against all odds, a cloned baby Ibex was born. It was the first time an extinct animal had been brought back to life. The victory party didn't last long though. The clone only lived for about 7 minutes, it had a severe lung defect and couldn't breathe properly, so technically, the Pyrenean Ibex became the first animal to go extinct twice.
It's really just a clone? Okay. So this guy is technically correct. Cells for this organism are alive and frozen. So this is going to be an advantage in terms of bringing this thing back. It's going to be much easier bringing the Pyrenean Ibex back than bring a mammoth back, because mammoths had older DNA which has degraded.
Kind of amazing and kind of heartbreaking. Even though the success was short-lived though, it proved that de-extinction wasn't just science fiction anymore. It was messy and complicated, sure, but it was real, and a real possibility to do better. And in those 7 minutes, the seemingly impossible actually happened.
Science is progressing, so they're really Seriously, science is improving year by year, so maybe one day we'll be able to clone mammoths.
So pronounce something like Shavevelski. Shavevelskis Horse is a prehistoric-looking beast that once roamed the steppes of Central Asia. These stocky horses are the last truly wild horse species on Earth. Not wild as in used to be tame and then went rogue, wild as in never domesticated. But things didn't go well for them once humans showed up with fences and firearms. By the late 60s, these horses were completely extinct in the wild.
Okay, I can confirm this. This guy indeed is correct. I mean, it's to be expected given that it's modern animals we're talking about. More modern animals we're talking about, like, they went extinct not a long time ago. This says technically did not go extinct, it went extinct in the wild, but not extinct.
The only ones left were in zoos, but in 2020, scientists stepped in. Using 40-year-old frozen cells from a stallion named Kaporovic, they created a clone, and boom, you had a healthy baby Shavevelskis horse.
Now, one gripe I have for this is the Shavevelskis horse actually did not go extinct. It actually went extinct in the wild, like I mentioned earlier, but not completely extinct, so I don't know why this guy put the Shavevelskis horse here. Maybe it's because bro thought extinct in the wild equals extinct. I don't know.
Now born in a Texas facility, who they named Kurt. Kurt's genes came from a bloodline that hadn't been part of the breeding pool in decades, so he brought much needed diversity to a population that was getting a little too inbred. And thanks to years of conservation work, these wild horses are back in their native Mongolia, running free once again. The quagga was a strange-looking animal, a zebra subspecies with stripes in the front half of its body and then just a plain brown rear end.
Now, I hate to break it to you, but this is just a quagga-like zebra population and not actual quagga.
It once lived in the grasslands of South Africa, roaming around in large herds, but like a bunch of species, it didn't survive European colonization. Settlers hunted it for meat and hides, and by the 1880s, it was declared extinct. The last known quagga died in captivity in Amsterdam in 1883. For a long time, scientists didn't even realize the quagga was a distinct subspecies.
That's because taxonomy was not as advanced back then. This is 1883 we're talking about. Could they check the DNA stuff, you know, the AGCT stuff?
That changed in the 1980s though, when a German natural historian named Reinhold Rau launched the Quagga Project. Using preserved skins and taxidermy specimens, Rau conducted genetic testing and confirmed that the quagga was genetically close enough to plain zebras that selective breeding might be able to bring them back.
More like bringing back quagga-like zebra populations instead of quagga, as basically the first step in trying to recreate the quagga. It's not exactly the quagga, but it's a quagga-like zebra population, which is going to help.
At least in appearance. The idea was to breed plain zebras that naturally showed fewer stripes, generation after generation, until the animals started to resemble the extinct quagga. Over the decades, the project produced zebras with lighter coats, reduced striping, and even that same body shape described in old quagga records. The animals born from this project are now called Rau quaggas. And sure, they aren't true quaggas in the genetic sense, but they're close.
Close doesn't mean exactly quaggas. At least a guy acknowledged that they aren't true quaggas, so props to this guy. But anyways, let's just continue this. Once again,
some have even been reintroduced into the environment in South Africa, living in the same type of environment their ancestors did. The Lord Howe Island stick insect was once believed to be extinct.
Okay, I can confirm this. However, in 1964, some of them were rediscovered in the form of dead bodies.
Wiped out by invasive rats and other pests, the insect, also known as the tree lobster for its very weird lobster-looking appearance, lived on Lord Howe Island in the Pacific Ocean. By the 1920s, the insect had completely disappeared though, or so everyone thought. For decades, it was assumed that the rats had done them in. But then in 2001, there was this incredible discovery. Researchers came across a population of these thought to be extinct insects.
Unfortunately, though, we can now circle about talks about facts not relevant to the title, because from the title itself, it's supposed to be extinct animals scientists brought back from the afterlife. This one was not brought back from the afterlife at all, because it still existed.
Surviving on Ball's Pyramid, a jagged, steep rock formation off the coast of Lord Howe Island. The fact that these things managed to hang on in such a harsh, isolated environment was mind-blowing, as well as the fact that they were even there at all. So now, scientists have been working hard to breed them in captivity and reintroduce them to their original island home, and they're slowly making a comeback.
Yeah, finally, this is just starting to go downhill, I think. In terms of the title and all that, this is starting to just not be very good. It starts to show that these big channels, most of them just can't really make proper paleontology videos.
The Restrador Basilero is a hunting dog that was bred in the 1950s to chase down jaguars and wild pigs in Brazil's thick forests. But by 1973, the poor dogs got hit with tick-borne diseases and a bunch of insecticide poisoning to try and get rid of the pests. Well, this was enough to wipe them out, and they were officially declared extinct.
Okay, this one actually lives up to the title, so we're not going to be complaining as much here. Jeez.
In the early 2000s, though, a group of dog lovers and breeders formed a group called the Brazilian Tracker Rescue Support Group. They set out to find any surviving dogs that had the original breed's traits in them. They spent years tracking down these dogs, selectively breeding them, and by 2013, they'd successfully brought the breed back from extinction.
It's just re-recognized. Efforts were made to reproduce the thing. So, that's pretty much all there is. Anyway, let's just continue on with more of those. There's 4 more that we're going to have to go through, right?
The Floriana giant tortoise lived on Floriana Island in the Galapagos. As the name suggests, these were huge tortoises, about 4.5 feet long. Sadly, by the 1800s, they were wiped out, mostly thanks to overhunting by sailors and the introduction of invasive species.
The tortoises finally disappeared in around 1830. By the time Charles Darwin arrived in 1835, decades of exploitation had driven the population to critically low levels.
For over a century, everyone thought they were totally gone. But in 2012, scientists discovered that there might be some hope after all. They found a female tortoise on another island, Hispaniola, that had DNA showing she was related to the Floriana tortoises. This tortoise was nicknamed Lonesome George's cousin, and scientists went to work on a plan. They started breeding her with tortoises that were genetically close enough, and thanks to years of careful breeding, they managed to create a population of tortoises that closely resembled the extinct Floriana giant tortoises.
Basically similar to the Quaga situation, but then of course there's those hybrids. So they're close enough, and they began to breed to try and recreate the population, which is, well, as you said, close enough.
It wasn't a perfect clone job, but was close enough to bring these species back in a new form. So while we don't have the extinct Floriana giant tortoise wandering around exactly, it's still better than nothing. Okay, now here's one you probably haven't heard of, the Montreal Melon.
The Montreal Melon is a plant.
You can't keep getting away with it! You can't keep getting away with it!
Bro really thought that no one would notice. Okay, guys. Apparently, this is an animal. A melon is an animal. How are you going to say this to Melanie from Object Overload?
So this is a type of melon that was native to Montreal, obviously, and used to grow in the area back in the 1800s. The melon had a very unique flavor. It's been described as having a slight spice to it, almost like nutmeg, and apparently it would just melt in your mouth when eating it. No surprise, it was a local favorite. But this melon pretty much disappeared in the early 1900s.
Okay, there's not much wrong with it. There's really not much wrong with this statement. So I'm going to just continue this thing.
extinct. No one really knows exactly why. Maybe it was due to disease or just the changing farming practices at the time, but whatever the case, the Montreal melon was gone. For over a century, it was nothing but a legend. But in 1996, seeds were discovered at a seed bank in, try and guess where, I'll give you a second. That's right, Iowa.
I don't know why bro tried to incorporate a plant into what is seemingly an extinct animal video. I don't know why. Is it because bro is a fan of object shows? Or is it because bro is just... You know what, just forget about it.
Well, soon enough, the Montreal melon was back on local menus. The York Groundszo was a little yellow flower.
Dude is just incorporating even more plants into this. Oh my goodness gracious, what even is happening here?
That was hanging on in some pretty unusual places in York, England. It was a cross between two other plants and would grow in strange areas like railway sidings and roadways. But like many things in the world of nature, it didn't stand a chance once the city decided to crack down on weeds. By 1991, the flower was officially declared extinct in the wild. But just because it was gone doesn't mean people gave up on it.
Keep in mind that extinct of the wild does not mean completely extinct. They might still be in captivity. So, basically, they're both different things.
Turns out, there were seeds stored in the Millennium Seed Bank, a place where scientists keep seeds from all sorts of plants for situations just like this. In 2023, experts from Natural England decided to give the flower a second shot at life.
Now, should I call this bringing back from the afterlife? Because the seeds were stored. It's just that the plants were gone, but the seeds were still there. So,
Using those stored seeds, they managed to grow the York Groundszo back to life, making this the first ever successful de-extinction in Britain. Now the plants are being reintroduced, and it's a major win for conservation, proving that with a little help from science, you can sometimes bring back what was thought to be lost forever. So sure, it's not an animal, but still a living thing, and that's pretty cool. The Celocanth is probably one of the most famous rediscovered animals in the world.
oh. Is it because of this? Ah, I see. Nice.
For centuries, scientists thought that the coelacanth was long extinct, way back since the end of the Cretaceous period, around 66 million years ago.
I have no complaints here. This is correct information, so let's continue to move on with it.
But in 1938, something that could only be described as mind-blowing happened. A fisherman off the coast of South Africa caught this unusual fish, and after scientists carefully examined it, they were amazed to find that this was a coelacanth. A fish that was supposed to have been gone for millions of years was still out there swimming in the ocean, and since then, scientists have tracked down several other coelacanths in the waters around Africa and Indonesia, proving that this ancient creature somehow survived the mass extinction.
Well, when it comes to the title, yeah, it's very, very misleading. It's supposed to be brought back from the afterlife, but instead, it already is living. So, it's not really brought back from the afterlife when it's still living. That's literally it.
So yeah, this one isn't technically de-extinct, just rediscovered. Still though, does make you wonder what other seemingly extinct animals may actually still be out there. With all that said, I've been your host, James. I'll catch you, you specifically, in the next video.
This is the end of the video, and here are the results. I'll admit, it's kind of underwhelming. But anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you on the next one.